So you guys, thank you for being here. Clean and sober dad here, 12 years clean and sober, full-time single daddy. I got a deep passion to share this message with you. Today is November 5th. I'm gonna say a prayer real quick just so I could get outside of my head long enough to have a new experience, because I've read this lots of times. So if you want to join me, join me. If you don't like prayer, don't join me. That's okay. God, please enable me to set aside everything I think I know for an open mind and a new experience. Please help me to see the truth about what I'm about to read. Please allow my followers to set aside everything they think they know so they can keep an open mind and have a new experience. Please allow them to hear the truth and message from my heart. Amen. If you got experience while I read this, please leave it in the comments. Got a sobriety date, drop it in the comments. November 5th. The quality of faith. This has to do with the quality of faith. This has to do with the quality of faith. In no deep or meaningful sense had we ever taken stock of ourselves. You could add another word in there. Honest, an honest stock of ourselves. In a deep and meaningful sense. Have you ever gone through life before maybe you found this spiritual way of life, if you have found it? But have you ever gone through life and not recognized, but it's always their fault, or somebody snubbed you, or somebody hurt you, or the circumstances weighing you down, right? And that's as far as we ever make it as a human. Typically, I don't sit there and assess myself on a regular basis, living with the human ways, right? Instead, I'm like, oh, poor me. Oh my goodness. Oh, I can't catch a break. Oh, they missed out. And then you'll get all your buddies and all your friends on the same side. You tell them about all the things the other person has done, or the other circumstance, or whatever has happened in your life. Not once did I stop and say, did I set the ball in motion? Did I perhaps say something I shouldn't have? Do I have any part of that? Never, right? So I never really take an honest self-appraisal. Instead, I live life like that. And what I'm feeding is my ego. What I'm feeding is the fear. What I'm feeding is the separation. And next thing you know, I'm like a grown-ass man. I might be very successful, but my relationships suck. Or I'm miserable and I just blame it on life, right? But if I can learn to take an honest look at myself through each of those resentments, each of those fears, each of those, that guilt, each of the shame, each of the circumstances, if I can just take an honest look at myself, I will see it from a new perspective. Now the fingers are pointing inward instead of outward. Now there's actually something I can do about it. And once I learn to do that, I could potentially see them as sick too. And then I have an opportunity to think of love or compassion or forgive them, rather than so much anger and resentment, which means that I don't have to carry that no more. Wow, what a deep concept. Take an honest stock of yourself. But remember, if you don't have any experience doing this, you're not going to just magically be good at it. I couldn't see the truth about myself after living like that for so long. I become clouded to it, right? So I need help from other people around me. It's like growing up as a kid. The dad or the mom, in my experience, seemed to have all the answers. But I didn't believe them. I thought, oh no, you have no idea. You're not me. You don't know what it's like to live my life. And then I would snub them, or I would go a different direction and learn the hard way, right? But actually, they see themselves in us. And actually, they probably could have prevented a lot of the chaos and misery that I went through, right? If I would have just listened to them the first time, right? It's like that today. So I need to have some accountability partners. People in my circle, people in my life that I'm actually willing to listen to. People that have shared lived experience. Because if they don't have shared lived experience, I'm not going to give them that respect, right? But if they do have shared lived experience, perhaps I need to let that wall down and keep my mind open to whatever they have to say, even if it is directly towards me. It's a judgment, right? I need them to judge me. If they can judge me and I can receive it, I have an opportunity to hear something I need to hear and then change my feet. And once I change those actions, my mind will follow. God, that is so deep. Honest stock of ourselves. The big book of AA says that's as far as most of us ever got, right? As far as blaming others. It's time we take a look at ourselves. We had not even prayed rightly. We had always said, grant me my wishes instead of thy will be done. That's it. Anytime I pray, go ahead, buddy. Anytime I prayed or as I'm going through life, it's like, well, I'm going to pray that I make it through this. I'm going to pray that God carries me through this. I'm going to pray that sooner or later, I, right? Praying for me. But rather, once I really start to look at myself and I start to live this spiritual path, I start to realize that it's not about me. That's actually what I suffer from. I suffer from a disease of selfishness and self-centeredness. I'm so constantly self-absorbed and obsessed with myself that I'm just walking around, fighting my way through life, resisting everything. But once I get out of my own way and I realize that I'm not alone, and I realize that I've got 100% success rate when I look behind me, and I realize that it's more about helping others, serving those around me, right? What is God's will? You know, once I wake up, say, God, please help guide and direct my thinking, whatever your concept of this God is, right? What can I do for the man in front of me? What can I do to better my life, my son's life? What can I do, right? How can I be of service today? Once I learn to do that, then I start going in a different direction. And I get so full of self, so full of self-love, so full of self-esteem, so full of self-ambition. I get so full, more full than I've ever been if I live that way. So if I start changing my prayers from grant me my wishes to thy will be done, then I'm going to have the effects. It's going to be electric. God does not grant me material possessions, take away my suffering, or spare me from disasters. But he does give me a good life, the ability to cope, and peace of mind. That's really important too. Everybody wants to catch a break. Can't I just catch a break? Right? I just wish I could catch a break. Right? I remember that way of living, and it sucks because I'm constantly in collision with someone or something. I'm always a victim, even though it's justified. I could rationalize it, right? Actually, and then you become more mad at God or this concept. Maybe you had a childhood religion or something, and now you are mad at him because he took your grandma, or it caused you to suffer with addiction, or this or this. But actually, those are worldly clamors. That is the humanistic way. Of course we're going to pass. Of course we're going to make mistakes. Of course society sucks, right? Of course life is tough. Of course, but it's not God, right? What I need to do is seek the faith that's attached to this idea of God. Once I seek that faith and I just learn to be okay through the tragedy, they become my greatest assets. And I make it through it. And I start changing my footing. Once I change my footing, less of that stuff happens. Or maybe it continues to happen just the same. But my perspective of what's happening changes, right? Man, what a beautiful thing. My prayers are simple. First, they express my gratitude for the good things in life. First is gratitude. Man, regardless of how hard I have to search for them. So regardless of how hard I have to search for that gratitude. And second, I ask for the strength and the wish to do his will. So it starts with gratitude. I don't know if you guys have any experience with recovery, but did you ever write a gratitude list? I did. My sponsor had me write a gratitude list every day. Told me to hang it on my door. I did it for a couple years straight. Wrote it every day. And it would change. It started with being grateful for my PO. Grateful for the recovery center. Grateful for family. Right? Grateful for those around me. Right? And it turned into like grateful for the ability to be grateful. Grateful for the ability to forgive. Grateful for the love I have in my heart today. Grateful for the compassion that I get to show my fellow man. It just changed after practice. Another thing that changed is when I started waking up and my first thought was me. It was really easy to transition it into gratitude. And after a period of time, it's gone from my head to my heart. Now I've got a heart of gratitude. Now during those tough situations, it is really easy to shift into some sort of gratitude from that experience. That's the magic trick. And once I learned to do that, now I can ask God, okay, God, please direct my thinking. Thy will be done, not mine. Just simply taking that action will get me outside of my head long enough to have a new experience, right? It's like when I demolished my leg flipping a four-wheeler off a mountain. Almost amputated it. About lost my son. Got to save my son's life with getting to him somehow magically and manipulating that four-wheeler on top of myself. Instantaneously, as I lay there on the side of this mountain in Lava Hot Springs, Idaho, holding onto a little brush so I don't fall down the mountain no more. The leg is going the wrong way. My son is behind me trying to get up. I immediately say, Sean, it's going to be okay, buddy. And I look next to me and my phone is next to me. It's busted up, but it's next to me. It wasn't in my possession. It was in the four-wheeler containers. I can't even see the four-wheeler. Now the phone happened to land next to me. I got so full of gratitude right away. Picked up the phone. I called for help. I sang the ABCs to my son. I took pictures of the pretty view as I lay there on the mountain waiting for them to come get me. Right? They came down. 4 doctors came down, said they're going to amputate my leg. 4 of them said it's the worst knee injury we've ever seen. Amputation's the only option. I got to smile and tell them that's okay. My son is alive. That's the power of gratitude. See, if I didn't have this practice, I would have found a million reasons to be upset. I lost my job. I didn't have income for 6 months, and my life improved. During that 6 months, my life got better. How does that happen? That's the power of gratitude. That is the shift. It's the paradigm shift. It's the change in mentality. It's the psychic change. It happens if you start with something small. Expose yourself to it. Starts with writing a gratitude list. Wow. What a beautiful way to live. It's like my divorce. I got 6 sponsees the day after I got divorced. My life got better. It's crazy. He answers with solutions to my problems. That's critical. He answers with solutions to my problems. I usually am seeking more attention to the problem so I can understand it better. Understanding it doesn't do me no good. Thinking about my problems doesn't get me out of it. I got to change something. I got to move out of it. I got to move through it. I can assess the situation and get the hell out of there. What is the solution? Let's go focus the attention on the solution. Sustaining my ability to live through daily frustrations. That's what one day at a time means, by the way. Learning how to live one day at a time. Not just not drink or use one day at a time. That's horse crap. Sustaining my ability to live through my daily frustrations with a serenity I did not believe existed. Wow. Could you imagine going through that experience I just shared about and having serenity in your heart? That's crazy, right? Hi, Melissa, right? And with the strength to practice the principles of AA in all my affairs, everyday affairs. What an amazing reading. What an amazing concept. You see, if I suffer with addiction or alcoholism, I suffer from a spiritual disease. Threefold: spiritual malady, mental obsession, and physical allergy. Society today can treat the mental and physical part. And that's as far as they make it. But then they're constantly fighting through life. And I see them. I hear about them in the meetings. Oh, I had 10 years and I took a drink. Oh, I had 20 years and I took a drink. Oh, yeah, and Bob over there, he had 7 years. He was doing so good. Now he's not alive. Right? You hear about it. I hear it over and over and over. And they all say the same thing. It wasn't about changing their spiritual condition. It was about just not drinking or using. And that's what that got them. If you suffer with this spiritual malady, then you need to work out a spiritual solution, right? And that thing that I just read is exactly it, right? I need to learn how to live in the day and react with grace and dignity. Live in the day, respond with reason, live in the day, and simply be okay. Practice gratitude. Show attention to the solution instead of the problem. This is a new way of living. If I want the true freedom that recovery has to offer, I must seek this on a daily basis. Just not drinking won't work for me, because then as life happens, I'm going to continue to make it about me. right? I heard a lady, she's got like 7 or 8 years in a meeting last night. All she talked about was how her heart was heavy. And she wanted God to carry her through this challenging time her kid is going through. Right? And that's a commendable concept, right? I feel for her. But what about the kid that's going through it, right? Should we be praying for her growing woman to make it through this, or should we be praying for that kid that's got all these surgeries? See, it's not that there's right or wrong in that. It's just a simple shift in perception. So if I go through something like that, I can focus on what can I do for my boy? What can I do for my loved one? Instead of so much about me. Because now if I focus on me, I'm going to be weighed down by it. So during this whole experience, all I could think about is me, right? And it might be justifiable, but it's no way to live. All right, you guys, that's all I got. Any questions or comments? Thank you for being here.